Hey everybody, it's been a few weeks since you heard from me, and I'll start out right up front with apologizing to those that were waiting for me for so long. Um, Coming off the trail has all of its own emotions to deal with, um, besides being sick. Um, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that I hadn't forgotten you. I know most of you have not forgotten me. The outpouring of concern was truly amazing. This is the part where I said I would tell you the raw parts. When I first put my video out, I said it would be real. This this video has been a while coming. I tried to start it several other times. I don't know if this one's going to make it. So, thank you to everybody that sent me wishes. Thank you to everybody who wrote to me. It was a response that was quite surprising and unexpected, to have that many of the people, that many of the strangers that have never met me, that have never sat down and shared a cup of coffee with me, or a meal, or a conversation. So many of those people just kept reaching out. Thank you. It went a long ways towards trying to heal the spirit. The body heals faster than the spirit sometimes. So let's get back to what happened. The last time you saw me, I was sitting in the ED at a place called the Union City Hospital in Blairsville, Georgia. And how did I get there? Well, it was a decision I made at about 6 or 7 o'clock at night when I was sitting in Hawk Mountain Shelter. I was alone in the shelter. There were a couple of people camping outside. Believe it or not, I think there was like 8 girls camping outside. I was the only guy inside the shelter, and they had all chosen that before I got there. But I had arrived at the shelter, and I was fatigued. I was heavily fatigued, and I had started to cough a little bit earlier in the evening, coming up the trail heading towards Hawk. I had actually wanted to go on to the next shelter, and I forget the name of it now. Gooch Mountain, I believe it was. I wanted to go on to Gooch Mountain, but it was 2 more hours, and the sun was already starting to set behind the tops of the mountains. So it just didn't make a wise choice to want to try and continue through a trail I didn't know in the dark, and already starting to feel a little down physically. It was the end of day 3. I got to the shelter. I got into like my night gear, and started to bring my food out when I really started hacking and coughing really, really bad, to the point where I thought, well, I'm not going to try and choke down a meal while I'm choking on my own. And so I proceeded to just make the decision to go to bed, and thought, well, I'll just feel better in the morning, and I'll eat an extra big meal, a trail meal. So that's where everything started going sideways. I laid down, and the more I laid down, the longer the coughing got, the worse it got, and I started bringing up large chunks of mucus and whatnot, and that started making me concerned, because to have that deep of a cough into your lungs and have it form overnight was kind of hard, to understand where it was going. And as most of you might remember, I mentioned in my original video that I do have asthma, and it is a concern. You have to be aware of your surroundings and aware of what you've got going on in regards to your triggers for your asthma. And the extremely cold weather that night, I mean, we were down into the 20s. We'd been in the 20s since the day before. The night before had gone into the 20s when I was at Springer Mountain with Matthew and Mark and Scott and a couple other guys. And it never really got any better. So one of my triggers is cold, breathing cold air. But anyways, what ended up happening was, without laboring into all the tiny details, at a point in time, I took inventory of my situation, which, as a long distance runner when I was younger, as a long distance swimmer in the recent past, And as anybody that, that's ever gone into any type of extreme sport, you have to inventory your body and your emotions, all the time you're out there, because, you want to be aware of what's going on with your body. And I inventoried my body, and I inventoried my situation, and I realized that my bronchial tube was starting to get very sore, very, very raggedy, like almost bronchitis. And that can cause breathing problems with asthmatics. And that's when I decided to inventory other things around me, like my food and my phone and my batteries. And that's when I realized that my phone was below 40%. That being said, I was carrying on Garmin. I had the InReach Mini 2, and it was at about 50%. And so I dug my maps out, and I looked, and it was like, okay, I to go back to Springer Mountain, just to get to the shelter would have been like 8 miles roughly. To get out would be another 8 miles. To go forward from Hawk, I believe it's called Above the Cloud Shelters or something like that, which is beyond Gooch Mountain, would have been just about the same equivalent. And I wasn't really feeling like I was going to make that in the middle of the night, and I didn't know how I was going to do the rest of the night. So I did make the decision to pull the pin on my SOS button on the Garmin. I quickly used what battery I had left in the phone. I dedicated towards contacting family and letting them know what was going on. The last thing you want is strangers calling your family and telling them, hey, look, this is what we know and this is what we don't know. So I contacted my wife, and I let her know what was going on. I let her know that, hey, I'm still standing, which I really wasn't, but I'm still standing, and everything's good. I just need help getting out, and I don't know which way to go. I played it kind of down a little bit so that she would be cool, and she was. She read through my act. She knew my game. And I triggered the SOS while I was with her on the phone, and it went through the Garmin 30-second countdown. If you've never pulled the pin on your Garmin, you can pull the pin, and it'll offer you the option to stop it. And you can cease it, but you'll notice that it's a 30-second countdown. When that 30-second countdown ends, you have no choice. It's sending a signal. And I said to my wife, okay, it sent the signal. They'll probably start trying to contact me in a little bit. And that little bit lasted maybe about 10 or 15 seconds when my phone got interrupted to the call to my wife with another incoming call. It was a young lady from Garmin, from their emergency services crew, and she asked me to identify myself and what, was it a real SOS or was it just an accidental trigger? And I indicated what was going on, and indicated my battery condition, which was one of my concerns. All the time that I was looking at my batteries and thinking about what I really needed to do, and whether it was foolish or embarrassing or whatever the emotion might have been about maybe pulling that pin, that young man's face from New Hampshire was in my face. I didn't want to end up like him. And, embarrassment's kind of like jealousy and anger. Those are other people's emotions that they need to deal with. It's not something I allow into my life, so the choice to make the call was good. I indicated to the people at Garmin that I was low on battery power. I was quite concerned that anybody or everybody knew exactly where I was. So I told them, look, I am inside the shelter at Hawk Mountain. And the lady on the phone, the young lady on the phone, said, I know exactly where you are. She goes, you're in the back corner of it and inside the shelter. And I said, yes, how did you know that? And she said, our GPS is good to 9 positions out past the decimal point. They had me within a meter. So it was nice to know that. And I can't begin to tell you how warm and how secure that was to have that person on the phone. And I was anywhere in the world pulling that pin, and she narrowed me down to 1 meter. And I was good with that. And then they said that they already had emergency services on the line, and that I would be getting a call from them. And I said, well, tell emergency services I don't have much battery power left in my phone. So emergency services, which turned out to be the Suchez Fire Station number 5 search and rescue team, an amazing group. They texted me and had me confirm who I was and what my condition was and what they had been told. Now, bear in mind, I've already looked at the maps. I don't know how to get out of here without at least a 6 or 7 hour march out. and that's in the dark. And I'm thinking I really do need medical attention, or otherwise this cough is going to get even worse, and then the asthma attack would be, dangerous for me to have, shall we say. And with nobody around, no medical attention around, I had albuterol with me, but I'm not sure that the huff and puff spray that everyone carries would have been good enough to keep me on my feet long enough for anybody else to get to me if I didn't make the move then. And they kept texting back to me, look, we already have a team together. And it's like, you have a team together? It's like, you just found out about me about 15 minutes ago. How did you get a team together already? And I was concerned about endangering them because it was a cold, icy night out. It's 7 miles in. And they made a comment in the text message, which they used texting instead of using my phone, which did save my battery. In the text messaging, the guy named Ernie said to me, I'm only 1 hour away from you. And I'm thinking, how on earth are you 1 hour away from me when the nearest shelter is an 8-hour hike at my speed? Maybe a top athlete's 4 hours. But he kept insisting he was only an hour away and could be there and get me out. He just needed one question answered. Did I need to be carried out, or was I going to walk out? And I said, there's no way you're carrying me off the mountain. I'll walk out under my own power. I just need to find a way out and to get some medical attention. And they said, okay, hunker down, keep your phone near you, stay warm, which I was. I was quite warm inside my sleeping bag. I just couldn't stop coughing and bringing up all this mucus and this phlegm and whatnot that I had to keep spitting out because it was just gross. So I decided to mummy myself into the bag and wait it out. And I figured, okay, a couple hours they'll be here, because there's no way they're within an hour of me. And just about an hour later, I see 3 white spotlights coming down the trail. And they walked right up to me, and as they got to me, switched over to a red light so they could see me and I could see them. And 3 members of the search and rescue team. And I just looked at them and thought, how the hell did you get here? And so they got me all buttoned up. And there was a young lady in the team, 2 men and a young lady. And when I say young, she was probably at most in her 20s. I hope she hears this because it was important. But I said, if you have to leave my gear behind, I can get it another way. And they said, no, we got it. And I said to the girl that said she was going to carry it, I said, well, it's kind of heavy. It's almost 24 pounds, but take the food and toss it into the bear barrel and lighten it up on your back. She goes, oh, you got the new ultralight stuff. She goes, my pack is over 30 pounds at home. And I'm like, oh, okay, smart ass, go ahead, take it. And they proceeded to lead me out. Now, the condition I was in breathing at that point was kind of important because if you know Hawk Mountain Shelter, if you're one of the hikers and you know Hawk Mountain Shelter, you know it's 2/10 of a mile off the trail. And from the trail into the shelter, it's downhill. So that means on the way back out, you got to walk uphill. And my breathing is really raggedy, really ratty too. And I'm stopping to eject everything that's coming out of my lungs constantly. And I made it about 1/10 of a mile before I actually had to stop. I didn't have enough breath to make it the other 1/10 of a mile for a minute. And they got me onto the trail, and Ernie turns around, and Ernie, by the way, is the chief at the Suchez Fire Department Station 5. And he happens to be the head of the search and rescue team that come to get me also. He says to me, Frank, he says, I promise you, it's a half an hour walk out. He says, and it's all downhill. Do you think you can make it? And I said, downhill is easy. I know a lot of people don't like downhill hiking, but I do have a technique that I learned in Africa that helps out quite a bit with stopping the bruising of the feet and the knees and the hips. So I said, yeah, I'm a little wobbly, but yeah, I'm going. So they put Ernie out in front of me. They gave me a big searchlight, and they put a guy right behind me who literally, no joke, he literally had a hold of my coat from the back all the time, like you're walking around some little kid, And he just wanted to make sure I didn't fall under his time and care. And the girl bringing up the back didn't break a sweat, I don't think. And she was talking all the way down the hill with my pack on her. And about 25 minutes down the trail, they were still talking to me, passing the time. And I'm still hacking and coughing and wheezing like an old steam machine. And Ernie turns around to me and says, Frank, look down to your left. And I looked down to my left, there's headlights. I said, what is that? And he goes, that's our truck. He said, we're here. And so another 5 minutes down the hill, heading down to the lights, I'm like, how did you get me out of here in a half a mile? None of this is on the maps. None of this is on the far out maps, unless you really, really, really explode the view out, and then you might find what's a backwoods logging road that was used a long, long time ago. That's like 20 miles off the next main road, and these guys had made their own trail into Hawk Mountain, into the shelter, because I said to him, how did you find this trail? He goes, we made the trail. He said, you don't think you're the first person we've ever carried out of here, do you? Last year we carried out a guy who fell out of an upper bunk and slammed his head on a timber on the way down, and they literally had to carry this guy out. He had a major head injury. He goes, no, we've got routes to these, to all the shelters within our fire district. And I'm like, wow, you guys are really well prepared. I can't say enough about the Suchez Fire Department Station number 5. Amazing people. So anyways, they get an ambulance down there for me. They transport me into the hospital. They do everything that, us old guys get. We get, lots of fluid, because it ended up, I was dehydrated. It took 2 liters of fluid just to get me back to normal and bring my blood pressure back to normal. But they ran an EKG strip, and that's a whole nother story for a whole nother video I'll tell you about later on. I do now have a visit scheduled with my physician, my primary care physician back here in Rochester. It'll be the first time I've seen him since I left for the trail. Repeated calls out to his group, repeated messages, everything went unanswered. And like I've heard before and never believed it, that the people that are in my age group, us geriatrics that are out still walking the trail, have to be our own advocates. Yeah, it's true. I just found out. So anyways, so I do have another visit with my primary care physician now, 6 weeks after I left the hospital in Blairsville, Georgia. But anyways, they transport me off to Blairsville. It was an hour and some time ride to get to the hospital. When I got the bill for the ambulance, it was a 48-mile round trip. So 24 miles in, 24 miles out, and the vast majority of it was on that old logging trail that the Suchez Fire Department had bothered to look at and had bothered to make their own trails to get into these shelters and to reach people like us, the trail hikers. So they got me into the hospital. It was about an hour later on. Suchez ambulance pulled up to the back of the hospital. I didn't see it, because it was dark out and it was all lit up inside the ambulance. And I was there for like 10 hours, but never realized, the hospital, other than I saw the back door. I come from a medium-sized metropolitan city. We have 3 different hospital systems here in Rochester. We have Rochester Regional, we have University of Rochester Medical, and I forget the third one. It's a much smaller urban, rural hospital system. But what used to be like 10 hospitals in our local area are now combined down into just 2 major groups and 1 minor group. So, Marshall, that's my little boy. Hey, come here. Come up here. But anyways, the service I got in Blairsville was unbelievable. 2 ambulance attendants rolled me in, and by the time they got me situated in a room, which was almost immediately, I had no less than 3, possibly close to 5 people waiting on me. Everything from new EKG wires to new saline solutions, new IV, new antibiotics, breathing treatments, because they were aware of the fact that I was an asthmatic and my blood oxygen saturation level was quite low. So they brought a respiratory therapist in, which is what I really needed, and chest x-rays, everything. I mean, I was never alone in my room, not even from minute 1, until 10 hours later when they said, okay, where's your car, because we're going to discharge you. And I thought, she doesn't know. I never told her. I said, well, my car's about 900 miles from here. I said, I'm long hiking the trail. And so they contacted the local police department, who was, I mean, gracious as all get out. The Southern hospitality shined all the time I was down there. If anybody's got anything to say about the Southern people, it's their congeniality. Their hospitality is beyond reproach. And the local police department was happy to pick me up, take me into the town, which was only about a mile away, and stay with me while we got the the innkeeper at the Best Western awake and got me up and got me into a room of my own. The hospital, I later found out, wasn't much bigger than most CVS stores. When I saw the pictures of the place after I got home and I looked it up, because I wanted to check on all my medical stuff that happened while I was down there and get a copy of everything, I was surprised to see how small it is. Union City Hospital is maybe small, but it's got an amazing group of people that work there. I can't say enough for them. I wish my local hospital and my local doctor's office had half the congeniality, half the belief in their clients, and half the care to take care of people when they come in and they're truly sick. Blairsville Union City Hospital, big thumbs up. So anyways, so they released me after about 10 hours. Multiple breathing treatments, multiple EKGs, single chest x-ray, 2 liters of saline solution, half a liter of antibiotics, a couple of shots, a COVID and a SARS test. And by the way, they said that they were in the middle of a massive SARS outbreak down there. And that's one of the reasons they issued the tests to me and ran them real quick to make sure that I wasn't contagious to anybody else around them, or that I got the proper treatment I needed. But I spent the next 2 days in the Best Western Hotel in Blairsville, Georgia. My original thought was that I was going to try and see how much better I could get. Yeah, that didn't work out. I'd be right up front with you, cut to the chase. On the morning that I made the decision that I had to go home, I was still puking up my guts. I was still having a hard time breathing. I hadn't eaten other than maybe a piece of pizza that I got down in the lobby, a cold piece of pizza. I couldn't get enough food down to keep me going, and I knew I was losing weight. And it was like, okay, the decision was made. It was, to say it was extremely difficult would be an understatement. To leave the trail after having 3 days of crossing over the mountains, being out there alone, being out there with other people, stopping to take pictures, meeting some of the people that I met. Joel, if you're out there, I answered your message. Answer me back. Thumbs up. I need to talk with you. What happens to you out there is hard to describe. My comical, I guess, way is, it was like, Star Trek had the Borg that assimilated people. Well, the trail assimilates you. It kicks your ass every minute. For those of you that are my age that go out thinking that you're in prime condition and you're ready to fight that trail and conquer it, that's what I was. And I'm going to tell you right now, it kicked my ass every day. It let me sleep like a newborn baby every night, and it welcomed me back, and I just couldn't get enough of it. Yeah. It's addicting. The trail is like a drug. Being out there and seeing the sky, just like what I have here in the background, perfectly blue skies here in Rochester today. It's 60-some degrees. Now, the best it ever got down there was 58 degrees, but it had beautiful blue skies. The night that I spent in Springer Mountain Shelter, it was 40-mile-an-hour winds gusting to 50 in a rainstorm that later the wind dropped, the fog rolled in, and the temperature dropped, and everything was iced over, and there was an inch of ice the next morning. Wow. Mother Nature kicked our butts that night. We all slept like babies on that trail. I remember one of the guys left his fuel and his cook stove out on the picnic table in front, and it was frozen to the table the next morning. They had to kind of wait for it to start to thaw out before they could get it. And moments like that on the trail. One of the big things, and I'll try and edit it into this video, was on the approach trail between Amicalola Falls Visitor Center and the Springer Mountain Monument. I stopped to take some pictures and get a drink of water, and I'll try and insert it in here. But as I turned around, there was a sapling that was like maybe 2 inches around that had a crotch in the middle of it that was head level, eye level, and someone had found a little heart-shaped rock and placed it in there. That rock has probably been walked by 1,000 times and no one's ever seen it. I turned around and looked at it, and I don't know if you hear this. If you're the person that put it there, thank you. That was awesome. And so that's going to be home on the wall and the memories of the trail, which are there's many there, and there's going to be many more, because I'm not done yet. In case I haven't said that, I'm not done yet. But being out there, it's addicting, and you just can't get enough of it. So when it came time to leave, getting back to the chase here, I decided I wasn't going to get on an airplane because I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I was still coughing terribly. And if you've ever been in public and you hear someone hacking and coughing all the time, you know, I'm guilty of it too. It's like, okay, I turn my face and look the other way and try and get away from that person. I don't know what they've got, you know. So I decided I was going to rent a car, and there just happened to be a rental car agency in the town. One of the local trail services I contacted, and they said, you know, you're only about a mile from that. I said, yeah, but I'm not in condition enough to walk uphill that mile with a backpack on my back. And he goes, well, can you cover my driver for a couple of bucks? And I said, yeah. He goes, I'll be right over to get you. The trail people, that's for a whole nother video. But if you haven't experienced it yet, it's an amazing thing. If you have experienced it, you can't deny it. That the people on the trail, the people that support the trail, and the people you meet along the way, whether they're a day packer, whether they're out there slack packing just because they're doing a section, whether they're a little local club that's out just with 10 or 12 people, or whether the guys that are sitting in the parking lot that just they go sit to wave hi to everybody that comes by. The trail people and the trail community, unbelievable humanity. It's addicting. So anyways, I decided to rent the car. I waited 48 hours thinking I was going to be able to get back on the trail, and that one of the trail services in town would just take me and drop me off, and I would find that place near Hawk Mountain Shelter, or either that or have them drop me at above the clouds, and I would slack pack back into the shelter that I was in at Hawk Mountain, and then slack pack back out and then continue on from there. But you know, looking realistically, I was going to put myself in danger of repeating the same act that I just had, and I didn't think that was very smart for me, nor was it smart to have to, you know, call out the rescue team again and endanger their lives for them to come out in the middle of the night. So I made the decision to jump in the car, in a rental car, and go home. I hope the rental car agency doesn't hear this. I made it home in like 15 hours, and there was a reason for that. I got in the car, used my phone, my Google Maps to get out, and Blairsville, if you haven't ever seen it, you haven't ever looked at it, look up Blairsville, Georgia. It is literally in the middle of nowhere. Right in the middle of the mountains, right in the middle of all winding roads. I was probably close to 2 or 3 hours on winding roads just to get out to what they considered a main road, which was nowhere near the expressway, the highway that I really needed to get on. And it was like the mountain wanted to remind me. It's like the trail wanted me to know. I'm driving down the road. I'm going past the dam sites. I'm going past the small towns. I'm going past the different hills with the signs on them. I'm going past the different fire towers that are all named after points on the trail, or the trail points are named after those towns. You know, the little dam, and I forget the name of the dam, Hiawassee, that's what it is. The Hiawassee Dam, the Hiawassee River and all that. There's a little town called Hiawassee, and a high school named Hiawassee, and a 4F club named Hiawassee, a gas station named Hiawassee. You get my point. Everything was named after that Hiawassee. And it just, every time I would see that, it was just like, oh, you know, it hurt. And looking up at the tops of the mountains as I'm going by them and seeing the fire towers and wondering who's up there, wondering where Joel is, one of my followers that was in my first video, who was out on the trail that I've lost contact with. And Joel, yes, I am trying to find you. Mark and Matthew, an uncle and nephew team. Scott and Chris, 2 guys I ran into while I was out there. People that I had an opportunity to meet. I'm trying to remember his name. I come over the top of one of the hills on the approach trail heading into Springer Mountain, and this guy comes bounding up the trail like he was in a run. And I said to him, "Hey, where you heading?" And he said, "My name is," and I'll remember it before the end of this video, I hope. He said, "I'm just finishing up my southbound." He said, "I left Katahdin," I think he said last September or last October, and that his friend just texted him he was waiting for him at Amicalola Falls Visitor Center, so he wanted to hurry. He still had 5 or 6 miles to go. Turbo was his name. A very tall young man. I'd say he was probably in his late 20s, early 30s, with a great big beard. If any of you know him and any of you see him, tell him I said hello. Turbo, if you see this, congrats on your completion already. I was just starting mine. Anyways, everything along the ride on the way home just kept reminding me of where I really wanted to be. But common sense, which I had very little of at the moment, said I had to go home. I had to get back to my doctor. I had to get back to my local hospital system, and I had to. And you forgive me for sniffing my sinus. That's the little part that's not gone yet. What was in my lungs is gone. That's doing much better, but my sinus and reactions to my sinus running down my throat and everything is still going on. So they're still working with me on that. Everything said I had to go home, and it's common sense. And like I said, if you care about the people that are out there that are really coming to help people like us, you don't want to go back out and make the same mistake a second time. You're only making a fool out of yourself, and it's just not worth it. You know, life has got a lot of time left in it, and it's still time to go. But anyways, 15 hours. Blairsville, Georgia to Rochester, New York. That was a non-stop route other than stopping for fuel and stopping for minor snacks and a salad along the way and getting home to where I felt comfortable again. And I got to be honest with you, even after I got home, it wasn't right. It's, you know, the wife is like, well, I'm glad you're home. I'm glad you're safe. I know where you are. There's something I need a hand with. One of our animals is sick, and she's been with us a long time, 14 years. So she was concerned about that and wanted my help with that. But other than that, she catches me looking out the window. She catches me going for a walk, and she catches me down by the stream here behind my house. And she knows. And so we've had the long chat again that, you know, I got to go back. She's agreeable as long as my health is good, as long as everything checks out with the doctors, and I don't know, maybe I take a couple extra precautions while breathing extra, you know, the extra cold air. Maybe I wait for the warmer season. But that's where I'm at. There's more coming. There's incidences that I want to save for a specific video. There's people I want to save for a specific video. I'm not done here, and I am going back out on the trail, and I am going back out this year. I doubt very much I'll be able to complete it this year with the time frame, with the prior commitments that I was fitting my through hike in between. That was family planned events that I won't disappoint my family just so I can be greedy and go back out and have my trail experience. I'll expand my trail experience, and in a future video, my wife is now, after listening to me talk and after seeing it in my face and hearing it in my voice, my ex-military wife, who was tired of camping because her last camping experience was in the deserts of the Middle East, has decided she wants to go back out camping and wants to do part of the trail with me, and even wants to take me up to the Redwood National Forest where she's already been, and wants to take me there, and Banff, Canada, Calgary, Alberta. The Banff, if any of you know about Banff, you know how beautiful that is, and spend a week or two in those places. And honestly, this September we are going back up to our local mountains here, the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York, and we make it a point to climb Hurricane Mountain and see the fire tower over there. But things have changed here. The need to be on the trail is far deeper than what my original commitment to going out was. And I don't want to, I mean, this video is going on now. I can't read the time because I got my sunglasses on, but it's probably 20 minutes or half an hour long already. But I needed everyone out there to know that, no, I'm not done yet. This video was long in coming. My apologies again, my humblest apologies for being late. I tried starting this thing so many times before, and I couldn't get past the emotions, and I would get really bad. You wouldn't have been able to understand what I was saying. I was like a 10-year-old crying. But here's where I am. I'm really wonderful. I'm doing much better. My spirits are much higher. My physical situation is much higher. I am back out hiking without a pack right now. I haven't put my pack back on since I got back home. I just washed my gloves because the trail dirt was on them, and I didn't want the trail dirt taken off. And I just finally washed the trail dirt out of them. But I wanted to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the Suchez Fire Department, Union City Ambulance Company, Union City Hospital, and to the people that reached out, I was going off the trail. Their fun was gone. They were going to follow me. They were going to live life vicariously through me. And I'm sorry that you didn't get to do that. You'll get further chances later on if you're still around. If you're not, I understand completely. And there's one person who I've never met, but I've talked with him so many times on the Yahoo chats, and who has his level of support and his humanity is truly warming and amazing. So it's hard. So hey, typical. Thank you. I'm going back out. And I hope I have enough courage to post this video. But thank you. This is the ugly real side that I warned you about. There's a couple more videos I'm going to be making. One about some people on the trail that I met, and another one about my new preparations and how I'm going to do this next section, and how I'd like to get together with a couple of people and maybe go do a week-long hike through particular sections. Like I'd love to go to the Grayson Highlands and see the ponies. I'd love to see McAfee Knob. I'd love to see the Fontana Dam. All those kinds of things. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here for now. Thank you for caring. If you made it all the way through to this point, you're a real trooper. Either that or you're a masochist. One way or another. But thank you. To everybody that's waiting for another video, give me a couple of days. This was the hardest one to get going, and I'll get another one out, say, within the next couple of days or a week, and update you on everything that's going on. Like I said, my doctor's visits tomorrow, and I'll go from there. But thank you. It's not over. I'm not done yet. Okay?